Ladies and gents, it's November 2014. Seems like all the countries should live in peace and harmony between them. However, there is one nation that likes to intervene into others' business, imposing double standards where it's beneficial and maintaining their monopolistic influence in different world's issues. My monologue aims to underline how the United States of America applies different sets of principles to similar situations. I would like to start with a major geopolitical dispute at the moment, Ukrainian crisis. Why United States in conjunction with European Union, political colony of US, always believe that when outside the above listed countries political upheaval takes place, as a consequence, only Democrats come to the power. Why US government has warned the Ukrainian authorities from using force against so-called democratic protests during the illegal and forced and armed overthrowing of the legitimate government in February 2014. And at the same time, Western civilizations are allowed to use rubber bullets, cold water and tear gas, as we have seen during the recent demonstrations in United States and Europe. While all active nationalist parties in Europe face difficulties in spreading their ideology around the country, however, extreme neo-Nazi party in Ukraine are most welcome and get all your support as long as the party is anti-Russian. Let's discuss the double standards related to invasion of other territory. Recently, US Secretary of State Mr. John Kerry mentioned in his interview the following statement addressed to Russia. You cannot just invade another country under a false pretext to defend your interests. Maybe the world has forgotten, but let me remind that since the United States of America has declared its independence from Great Britain in 1776, it took part in more than 70 wars worldwide. Most recent ones include Syria, Libya, Iraq and Afghanistan. Please notice that not a single one is even close to America's border. Why democratic voting in Crimea on the issue of reunification with Russia is much worse than cruel, bloody invasion of Iraq. An invasion that killed hundreds, thousands of people. An invasion with false allegation that Iraq had a weapon of mass destruction. Talking about Crimea, Western politicians and media experts solemnly and unanimously told us that the Crimean referendum is invalid because it was held under military occupation. Seems like people forgot how the elections in Afghanistan were taking place under military occupation as well. However, Western leaders, including ex-NATO Secretary Mr. Andres Rasmussen, praised them as a historic moment for Afghanistan and the greatest success of democracy. The question is rising: why Crimea referendum is illegitimate? Obama said that any activities taken in Crimea without preliminary coordination with Ukrainian government would be violation of international law. And what we have? Currently, US armed forces launch military program against Islamic State positions in Syria without the consent of the legitimate government. Western media is so much concerned with regards to Crimea and eastern regions in Ukraine receiving Russian support, accusing lust with weapon supply and physical presence of Russian troops. Zero evidence is published, but even if this is the case, then why you have been so calm during obvious Israel invasion in Palestine? You rhapsodize east part of Ukraine with a loud word, separatists. Maybe people forgot, but the history of modern United States originates from separatist movement where 13 colonies excited the rebellion against dictatorship of Great Britain. Let's fast backward to 1999. Kosovo Albanian rebel group is trying to separate from Yugoslavia. Well-known facts state that the conflict was initiated by Kosovo Liberation Army with full support of NATO. Then why make an exemption out of eastern regions of Ukraine? NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, US-led military alliance. West is trying to make the world believe that Russia is aggressive imperialist power. and that NATO is worried about intensifying Russian threat. Just by looking at the map, all doubts will be dispelled. Russia is surrounded by NATO military bases that have intervened into the existence of Russian allies. Now, please show me at least one Russian military base or missile bordering with the United States or its vicinity. You still believe that Russia is the aggressor? I doubt. It has been mentioned infinite number of times that Russia must take the responsibility for shooting down the airplane in Ukraine. Again, zero evidence is shown. We all know that in 1988, United States have shot down Iranian civilian airplane flying from Tehran to Dubai with 290 people on board. It makes no sense to point who is the guilty nation. Let me just quote George Bush Sr. I will never apologize for the United States of America, ever. I don't care what the facts are. End of the quote. US must keep the silence and stop accusing whoever has contributed to the Malaysian airplane crash, as they have no moral rights to comment with regard to the incident. Now let's talk about Obama's favorite gay rights. Again, you have described Russia as a very poor and backward country because it has adopted the law banning the promotion of homosexuality among minors. West was trying to impose the boycott on Winter Olympics in Sochi and Football World Cup in Russia. However, on the next day, US leader visits the Gulf countries where homosexuals can be imprisoned or even executed. If Mr. Obama is so sincerely concerned about gay rights, why attack Russia and then, on the same time, bow at the feet of Gulf leaders? I do not want to initiate controversy here. Double standards are clearly present and undoubtedly imposed by the West. It took more than 200 years for America to reach the current democracy stage, with only recently noticeable results. Let every country determine its own future. You do not have to spend billions into the development of democratic nation, as this is something that people have to accept with respect to their mentality and cultural diversity.